Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 mini-series with the Los Angeles Angels. And it is opening day of the 2027 season. Owner Artie Moreno expects us to at least try to stay close to an even record. When we looked at the preseason predictions, and it looks like these have been updated since we checked in. This is actually enthusiastic. We checked in yesterday at the end of our last episode, and our Angels were projected to win 84 games. In this simulation, we're projected to win 93 games, so that's a pretty significant improvement. Still no Angels among the top hitters or the top pitchers in the league, so hopefully the team will ultimately be balanced, but with 84 wins with the last simulation and 93 wins with this simulation, certainly hoping that when all was said and done, we are going to do more than just play close to 500 ball. Given that it is opening day, we also did get results from all of the defensive programs as well as the occasional running and bunting programs we were involved in over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Unfortunately, only 2 of the 10 programs were successful. Anthony Volpe improved his base stealing aggressiveness and his stealing rating a bit. And this one's surprising, but I'll take it. Outstanding result for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on his infield defense. His arm, his range, his error, and his turn double play rating all improved by 5. Still not a good defensive first baseman, but we'll take an improvement in everything. And speaking of improving in everything, the hope is that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has a much higher than 105 WRC plus and 1.1 WAR for us this year in his second full season with our Los Angeles Angels. And we talked about our final roster for the 26 men who are starting the season on our major league team last episode. We've also talked a lot over the course of the last few episodes about the new additions, so won't waste a ton of time here. But we signed Willie Castro to a minor league contract a month and a half or so ago, and he's going to be a utility infielder for us this year. The other big changes is we really tried to improve our defense this year, bringing on Anthony Volpe to play short with a trade with the Yankees. That allows us to pivot Zach Neto to second, and brought on Grant McCray from the Giants organization to play center field for us against right-handed pitching, which lets us move Kyle Tucker to right field against right-handed pitching and hopefully also improve our defense there. Pitching-wise, we made a trade for Luke Weaver, who's going to be our closer as the season gets underway. Other than that, a lot of familiar names back on the pitching staff, but we do have a couple of significant injuries. Ben Joyce, who may take over as closer and get a second opportunity to be our closer after he flamed out in that role last year, on the IL now, but conceivably could take over for Weaver in the not-too-distant future. And then we also made a trade for Corbin Burns, who will plug in near the top of our rotation after he hopefully recovers from that strained forearm in about 3 weeks. So I think the team is better than it was a year ago, and importantly, we've got a lot of money available as we get closer to the trade deadline if we want to try to improve this team further and hopefully not just guide them to a winning record, but hopefully into the playoffs. And although it is opening day, the season is presumably starting somewhere in a galaxy long, long ago and far, far away, because we will not be playing our first game until about a week and a half from now on April 1st at home against the Blue Jays. Another month where we're not going to have a ton of action in the early going against our divisional rivals, although when we get to the middle of the month, we'll be at Oakland, home against Seattle, and then at Houston towards the end of April. Hopefully we can get this season off to a good start, and by the end of April be completely healthy with both Burns and Joyce back on the 26-man roster and recovered from their injuries. And in my haste to get the episode underway, I forgot to mention something very important that I did between the last episode and this one. We had offered Michael King an extension. You may remember he signed with us for a 2-year, $19 million deal. close to a year and a half ago at this point, so he's heading into what would have been his final year with us in Los Angeles. I think he, despite a bit of a disappointing first season, is a good, solid major league starter, and he was actually willing to sign with us for a little less than the $19 million we paid him before. He was asking for 4 years at $19 million a pop. We got him for 4 years, $64 million total, 15 for the 2 years after this one, and then team options at $17 million when he gets into his mid-30s. So think hopefully he will give us someone who, as this team evolves over the next year or two, can maybe move from being our number one starter to more of a third starter role. But that $15 million amount for the next couple of years is pretty reasonable to me for what he is. And then, depending on what he looks like in his mid-30s, we may bail out on Mr. King at that point. And some really good news as we've simmed ahead to opening day. Corbin Burns recovering well, so he's about a week ahead of schedule, only a couple days away. So that's significant progress there because we've made it to opening day, and at this point, Burns likely will be able to make one start, hopefully in AAA, and then be back with us. Ben Joyce, unfortunately, his recovery from that chronic back soreness is unknown, but means it could be a day, means it could be a month. My hunch is it's probably closer to a day. And our Angels off to a nice start, swept the 4-game series at home to begin the season. We'll be going on the road to St. Louis before we come back at home for a 3-game series against Baltimore and then head back out to the Midwest against Milwaukee. So it doesn't seem like the schedule makers did us any favors there. After that, we get into a more traditional week at home, week on the road type of routine with the travel. Burns pitched 60 pitches over 3 innings in his first rehab assignment in AAA. Didn't do incredibly well, allowed 3 earned runs. Obviously, it's more just to get him a little work. We probably will pitch him once more in AAA 5 days from now, give him 75 pitches or so, and then look to bring him up to the major league team. Still waiting to hear back when Joyce is fully healthy. And although we've lost our first game of the year on the road at St. Louis to fall to 4-1, Joyce is healthy now, so we'll also get him on a relatively brief rehab assignment in the minors, and then we'll have to make some decisions with our pitching staff. Clearly Burns and Joyce will be coming back to the big club, so some guys who've got a little bit of run here over the first several days of the season will likely be headed to the minors, unfortunately for them. And it's been a very streaky start to the season for our Angels after those 4 straight wins to start. We lost 4 in a row to St. Louis and Baltimore. Fortunately, have won the final 2 of the home series in Baltimore, or against Baltimore. So a 6-4 record, 10 games into the season. Now we're heading out for our first modestly long road trip of the season, 6 games in Milwaukee and Oakland. Or I guess technically Sacramento at this point. Hopefully Las Vegas in the not-too-distant future, given that it's 2027. And Burns and Joyce both ready to come back. Joyce has pitched and Burns has now started 2 games in AAA. We're going to send down the lefties, A.J. Block and Sam Aldegari, both of them off to rough starts to this season. We'll still have a couple of lefties in the bullpen with McDaniels and Spire. But we've got depth at this point in the bullpen, although I'm not actually sure how good it actually is. So we'll move Contreras into a bullpen spot to make room for Burns on the 26-man roster and in the rotation. And then we'll likely move Weaver into a setup role and change some of the other roles. We're going to give Joyce an opportunity to try to close again this year and see how that goes. And Ben Joyce, not good in the limited action he's had. 2 games, just 2/3 of an innings pitched, allowed 3 hits, including a homer plus a walk. So a 40.50 ERA for him in a admittedly tiny sample size. But now he's also out with a hamstring strain for 2 months. His injury proneness is fragile at this point. So our contract extension for him a year or so ago, looking worse and worse by the day. Not a ton of money, but he just hasn't necessarily been as effective of a reliever as we had hoped, unfortunately. And I know that I've gotten some feedback from some of you who have played with the Angels also in 26 or just observed him from afar if you weren't playing with the Angels. And feedback is that his development hasn't necessarily gone as well as you might have hoped. And we've made it to the month of May with a 16-12 record, game and a half behind the Mariners in the AL West, and we are holding on to the 3rd wild card spot in the American League at this point. So a solid start to the season and a great start to the season, which we're happy to see from Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who had that very rough first season with us in Los Angeles, but tied for the league lead in homers, leading the league in ribbies, leading the league in OPS, and 3rd in batter WAR through the first month of the season. So a nice start for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Luke Weaver back in the closer role, now has 9 saves for us. He's pitched in 15 games already, so we have been using him a lot in the early going this year. Hopefully we can keep him healthy. Not surprisingly, given the start that he had, Guerrero Jr. named the American League Batter of the Month for the month of April. 337, 9 homers, and 30 ribbies in the month of April. Looks like he hasn't done much here in the first couple days of May. Interestingly, Juan Moreno, who we thought about as an international free agent, off to a monster start with the Phillies. He was named the National League Rookie of the Month and also the National League Hitter of the Month. Moreno, 340 average, 8 homers and 28 ribbies for the Phillies. Looks like they have put the wrench in as their first baseman. Remember, the Phillies signed him to a 7-year, $290 million deal. He had come back to us saying that he wanted 7 years at an average of about $46 million from us. So it seemed like we weren't necessarily on the top of his list, but we did bow out after offering him 7 years and $280 million. So he is off to a big start with the Philadelphia Phillies. Fortunately for us, it looks like Guerrero's batting funk that he was in most of last year, particularly the first half of last season, may be behind him. And taking a look at some of our new additions, Burns is 1-1 in 3 starts with a 3.38 ERA. Overall, our rotation looking pretty solid so far. And Luke Weaver, as we talked about, 9 saves already, 2.84 ERA. Just have to hope that we don't burn him out by using him too much. Anthony Volpe's been banged up from time to time this year and not hitting at all. A $179 average and 67 at-bats. 59 WRC plus, and he's been below replacement level, even though we were hoping that bringing him on board was going to help our defense. Fielding-wise, he's actually been a little bit below average in terms of his zone rating and defensive efficiency, but as we said, he's been banged up with a couple of little injuries too, so that may have slowed him down a bit in the field. Grant McCray, the new addition in center field, hitting .220 with 3 homers and 7 ribbies and 59 at-bats. He has been slightly above replacement level, although only a 64 WRC plus as a hitter. Certainly we're hoping for more offensively from these two guys. Fielding-wise, at least McCray's been an above-average defensive center fielder, and that's allowed us to play Mr. Tucker in right field a lot more, where you can see he's an above-average right fielder, although he has played 10 games primarily against left-handed pitching that he started in center this year, where he still remains below average. Tucker offensively off to a slow start, 229, 4 homers and 13 ribbies, only a 104 WRC plus. And unfortunately, his power rating has certainly retracted a bit from where we thought it was when we signed him just about 16 months ago. Overall team statistics, the 16-12 record, right in line with Pythagorean expectations. Good offense, second in the American League in runs scored. Pretty mediocre pitching staff, ninth in runs allowed. You can see the starters ERA ranks fifth. The bullpen ERA ranks ninth, so that's still an area where we can maybe start looking to make some improvements. Fortunately, both defensive efficiency and zone rating fourth in the American League, so we've made some very significant improvements there with bringing on some new guys and pivoting some people to less demanding defensive positions. So hopefully that will continue to help our pitching staff and ultimately help us win some more games going forward with some better defense than we had last year. And we've simmed ahead a couple of weeks to mid-May, the month going really well. We've lost only 4 games thus far in the month of May as we sit here on May 16th. So taking a look at the standings, Seattle still up a game on us, but we are in the number 1 wild card spot, admittedly only a game above the 3rd wild card spot. Good 5-team race separated by just 3 games for the 3 wild card spots right now. Guerrero Jr. continues to have a really big season, leading the league or tied for the league in homers, leading the league in ribbies, and second in OPS. So he continues to perform very well. Minor injury news, unfortunately. Nolan Shanuel strained back, going to be day-to-day for about a week. We will probably just put him on the 10-day IL, bring somebody up since he's going to be out about a week anyways, ensure that he gets as healthy as possible. And he's off to a good start with us this year, 120 WRC plus, playing primarily against right-handed pitching. He's a utility player against left-handed pitching, but think that fits his skill set well, and we put him in an opportunity to hopefully be pretty productive offensively, even though he is still not an optimal defensive left fielder. Looking at his fielding stats this year in left field, still definitely below average in terms of his zone rating and defensive efficiency. And with Nolan going on the 10-day IL, we brought up Jorge Ruiz, left-handed hitting 22-year-old outfielder from AAA, hitting .327 in AAA this year in his introduction to that level. Much better defensively in terms of his range and error rating, and he's obviously been pretty productive, hitting over 300 this year. We'll have the opportunity to get his bat in the lineup every day. Kind of question his power and his eye for the long term, but since he'll be playing against right fielders for us, trying to put him in the best situation possible to have a little bit of success in his introduction to the major leagues, although my hunches will be sending him back down to AAA so he can play every day once Shanuel is ready to come back. And as we head towards the end of May, continue to play pretty well, 30-19 record, a game behind the Mariners for the division, still 1 game up in the wild card race, so a very tight race between 4 teams now. They're separated by a game and a half. Did get some good news. Shanuel recovered from that minor injury. Jorge Ruiz was not great, hit a .174 in 23 at-bats. So we will send him back down to AAA to get a little bit more seasoning. And with our offense performing well and the team performing well on the field, the one injury we really didn't want just happened. Vlad Guerrero Jr., fortunately not that serious, going to be out for a week or 2 with a foot contusion. So we will put him on the 10-day IL. Slowed a little bit, but still hitting .290 with 13 homers and 44 ribbies, 154 WRC plus, and a 1.9 WAR. So much more productive this season than he was a year ago, and hopefully he's also playing a little better defensively at first base with those improvements from him in the development lab. Actually looks like zone rating and defensive efficiency, he's slightly above average, which is a little bit surprising, but he's doing a solid job there, and certainly a solid job as our cleanup hitter. So stinks to lose him for couple of weeks. But if that's the only injury he has this year and he's in the lineup the rest of the way, we should be in pretty good shape. And with Guerrero on the IL, we're going to put Shanuel at first base every day against both righties and lefties for us. And we did call Jorge Ruiz back up, so we'll give him an opportunity to get a little more major league experience in playing left field every day for us, or at least every day that there's a right-handed pitcher on the mound. Shanuel has a knee contusion, moderate impact on his running, but not something that we're going to have keep him out of the lineup, especially with the opportunity for him to get back to his natural position at first base for a week and a half or so with VG Jr. on the IL. And we made it to June 1st. Juan Moreno, who we looked at in the free agent market last year, continues to have a monster month, as you'd expect from a 28-year-old superstar who came over from Cuba. He's been named the Rookie of the Month a second straight month. Hit 256 with 6 homers and 23 ribbies in the month of May, so slowed down a little bit from the torrid pace he started with in April, but still having a very productive season for the Phillies. As we sit here on June 1st, we've slipped back to third in the division, 3-7 record over our last 10. We are 3 games out in the division, and we are tied with the Red Sox and the Orioles for the final 2 wild card spots in the American League. So hopefully after that kind of fast start we had to the month of April to the month of May, things went really bad over the last week or so, as you can see, where we lost 5 out of 7 games over the last week of the season, and we've lost, obviously, 7 out of 10, as we saw in the standings. Hopefully can bounce back here in the month of June. We've got Tampa Bay and the Pirates at home to get the month started. And unfortunately, maybe we pushed things too far with Shanuel. He's still day-to-day with that knee contusion, still only a moderate impact on running, but playing every day, taking him a little longer to recover than we would have hoped. And fortunately, we have played a little bit better here to start the month of June. 4-5 record in those first 5 games of the month against the Rays and the Pirates. So we take both of those series after losing the first game of each series. We sit here getting ready for the draft combine. 600 winning percentage, although we're still third in the division, 2 behind the Mariners. We are now 2 games up on the final wild card spot, though playing a bit better, and the Yankees falling back a bit in the standings. So Guerrero Jr. still on the IL, has dropped off the leaderboards for the time being. Zach Neto leading the league in steals, and Luke Weaver tied for the league lead in stolen bases. We have spent some time looking at the draft pool and heavily trying to scout some of the top players, but you can see that we're average or low scouting accuracy for most of the big players, even though we have sent our scouts out to talk with all of them on multiple occasions at this point over the last few months. Hopefully we'll make a bit more progress with the draft combine beginning today. We are, after that 80 and 82 season last year, not quite as high as we were a year ago in where we will actually be picking. Right now we are projected to go 14th, and since we don't have trades on, that is when we will be picking 14th overall. The Royals, the Yankees, and the Marlins with the top 3 picks in this year's draft. And I can't say we've got a real sophisticated strategy for the draft combine, but this is where we can really accelerate our knowledge and relationships with some key players. As I noted, we're picking 14th overall. There's 23 players between pitchers and hitters that our scout right now has 4.5 star or higher ceilings on. So those are the 23 players that we are going to work with more closely over these next 4 or 5 days at the draft combine, and we'll check in on some of the top prospects or the players that we think are the real top prospects after we get through that and get to know them a little better. And unfortunately, our two big free agent acquisitions from a couple off seasons ago are going to be on the IL together, although hopefully only for one day. Kyle Tucker, a sprained wrist that's going to have a moderate impact on him for 4 weeks, impacting both his throwing and his hitting. I think it makes sense to just be conservative and cautious with him not having a great season with a 78 WRC plus. Finally got kind of Guerrero doing what we hoped to do, and then Tucker struggling this year. And looks like he may be regressing quicker than we would have hoped. So we'll put him on the 10-day IL. Hopefully we'll get him back a little sooner than 4 weeks, although there's certainly no guarantees. But given that we're 36 and 25, not going to mess around too much. We'll be pretty conservative with how we handle injuries for the time being. And we've played horribly while the draft combine's been going on, losing 4 consecutive days. So hopefully with the draft combine done, we'll start playing better. 5 games out in the division now, and tied with the Yankees and the Red Sox for the final 2 wild card spots in the American League. Fortunately, we have gotten Guerrero Jr. back in the lineup, which should help. As we sit here on June 12th, taking a look at the team statistics, still a very good offense, 3rd in the American League in runs scored. The pitching, not good though, 10th in runs allowed, and you can see the defense has been trending negatively in recent weeks as well. Good start in April, solid month of May, but 4 and 5 here in the month of June. That said, at 36 and 28, we look like we're well on our way to a winning record this year. The question is whether we'll be able to guide this team into the playoffs, which is certainly our objective. And we'll take a look at some of the top players who are going to be available in the draft in about a month now that we're through the combine. And fortunately, we have improved our scouting accuracy on some of those. The players who drew the most attention in the combine are all guys that we focused on as well. Right fielder Nick Abrahamian, potentially outstanding home run power and eye with a high baseball IQ. Left-handed hitting corner outfielder, certainly looks like he could be a very interesting offensive player. Right-handed pitcher Jason Best looks like an absolute monster if he's able to develop that changeup, especially for potentially world-class pitches. His stuff, his movement and control all look potentially exceptional. Catcher Mike Carter is going to strike out an insane amount. Not the greatest defensive catcher in the world, although he is very good at framing, durable in terms of his injury proneness, and a guy coming out of FIU that is pretty advanced, as you'd expect a 22-year-old to be, but the contact and the strikeouts look like they could be significant issues for him. Right-handed pitcher Rich Clark, the big question with him is his control and a few of his personality traits. Third baseman John Demers, also known as Big Dude, looks like a pretty solid prospect, not a superstar type prospect coming out of Canisius College in Buffalo, New York. Another guy who is a college guy is further along. Scott Gearhart, shortstop who's committed to Long Beach State, potentially outstanding home run power and eye, but another guy who looks like he may struggle to make contact. Center fielder Oscar Gomez, a little more well-balanced than some of the other prospects. Think his gap power and his home run power could both be excellent. Really a good-looking prospect overall when you combine above-average speed, above-average outfield range, good work ethic. The 21-year-old out of Rutgers isn't as advanced as some other college prospects, but still seems to have a pretty high ceiling. Shortstop Josh Griffin, another college player out of Pepperdine, pretty far along in terms of his development with the bat. Doesn't necessarily look like he's going to be a great defensive infielder, more of a third base or first base type in my opinion. Shortstop Joe Mallon, also known as Big Tom. Pretty interesting defensively, positive influence in the clubhouse, and doesn't look like he's going to have an exceptional bat, but does look like he's someone who could be a very useful major leaguer in the not too distant future. Interesting that there's a strong crop of college players this year, and a lot of them attracted the most attention. Caleb McCarver, just don't like some of the negative personality traits for this college pitcher, but still think he could get up to triple digits on the radar gun coming out of Washington State. Also looking for a pretty big bonus. So we're going to continue scouting up these players over the next month or so, and we'll do a much deeper dive on them as we get closer to the draft. And unfortunately, as we sit here on June 12th, still not a ton of interesting talent on the trade block yet, at least as far as position players. Ryan McMahon is a guy who we had looked at a couple years ago, or maybe it was even last season when we thought we might be able to rent him as a third baseman. Milwaukee was looking for a ton for him as a rental, given that he's 32 years old, declining a bit offensively and getting expensive. Don't know that we've got a huge need for him this year with our improved offense, and they're still looking for a heck of a lot for him for a potential rental. So don't know that that's a avenue that we will pursue. Pitching-wise, little more variety out there. Keegan Aiken is a lefty reliever that we've looked at in free agency the last couple of years. Haven't pulled the trigger to bring him on board. He's been respectable with the Marlins, but certainly not dominant, given that we do have a lot of money available to take on contracts. I think we'll probably be a little more patient and hopefully ultimately find someone who's going to be a higher leverage, higher impact player than some of the guys who are currently on the market. At least that's the plan right now. So as we sit here on June 12th, we do like where the team is. 563 winning percentage, certainly much better than a year ago. Getting a little healthier with Guerrero Jr. back right now. Still dealing with some significant injuries, though. Closer Ben Joyce and right fielder / center fielder Kyle Tucker still going to be out likely until late this month or early July. But if we can get them back around the midway point of the season, have a few weeks to kind of see how this team fires on all cylinders with everybody healthy before we get closer to the trade deadline, that would be optimal if it works out that way. And we'll find out how all of that works out in our next episode. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.